Hi there, welcome to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 126. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, the third of the three Carr brothers. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the U.S. election. That's finally done, and there's a new president. We'll talk about some more on provincial politics. Susan Holt has named her Liberal cabinet, so we'll get to maybe hash over that, and then some other things that we'll talk throughout the show. So as always, we welcome your comments on Facebook. We're also very pleased to be on YouTube and on CHCO TV, which we've already said that we've expanded now. CHCO TV is also on Rogers TV in Shaw. So that's excellent to reach every single household in New Brunswick that has cable. Is super. So
It's very exciting. Yeah, so I'm not sure about everybody else, but I was really tired of every time you turn on the news, it was the U.S. election. It was taking over all the broadcasts, and, you know, it's kind of a big deal, I guess. You're the strongest powerhouse in the world going through an election, a very important election. Just like some of the polls in Canada, the polling down there seemed to indicate that it was going to be a very close race, but it really was not very close.
No.
So
all the swing, most if not all the swing states went to the Republicans, and he won the college numbers, he won the House, won the Congress, popular vote, 4 out of 4.
I know.
So it was decisive.
Pretty resounding.
Which was really good. I was nervous it was going to be close. You know, that it would be close. Right. And that's not healthy. No. So regardless of any side that won.
Right.
It was definitive, and democracy worked. That's what can you say?
Yeah. Right. And I really, watching the vice president do her concession speech yesterday, how she talked about, you know, we concede this, we offer all of our support for transition in government, this is democracy, the people have spoken, that's how
it should be.
That's how it should be. When somebody loses, you lose gracefully, and it's the people that voted, it's not anybody else. And so for me that was very, and she obviously purposely wrote that speech or said it that way. It's just to take a little shot at Donald Trump on the way out, because the last 4 years have been anything but.
I know. Or when he lost.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
he lost the election.
He never stopped talking about it in court and out of court, and challenging.
Well, leaders have to know when they win, and they have to know when they lose, to put the greater good ahead, and that was an example of her doing that. And Obama's, Michelle and Barack Obama's statement was very similar. Bill Clinton and Hillary, almost statesmen, they're actually realize that they're leaders and people follow them. And what's better for the country is some peace and some stability, because that's what they campaigned on. So if they campaigned on it, well, they should demonstrate that, whether they win or they lose. And wasn't it that the Democrat vote went down substantially? Didn't come out to vote. Didn't go or voted other places. But I mean,
she didn't even compete with Joe Biden's numbers in, I think, most all counties.
Well, John King on CNN, still an amazing job, and he brought that map up and he hit the button, and then not one county in the United States did Harris beat Biden.
I know.
Do better than Biden, I should say.
It's quite something.
Yeah. Well, was there a factor there where she was basically in government running against herself, running against Biden, incumbency? So maybe would Biden have done as good as he did last time? No. But
maybe worse.
Well, yeah. So is it expected that? But certainly,
it's pretty easy when you're in opposition to campaign to take out a government, because you know the trigger words and the popular things to run on. And right now, economy. Immigration is an issue in the U.S. apparently, or they made it one.
Yeah.
But some of the statements that he made on what he's going to do, he did say on day one he was going to start deporting people, which I don't know. I don't know if people really believe that or not. But he was talking about the issues that resonated down there, and incumbency is not easy. It's hard to defend.
No, we've seen that all over. Well, he lost his first term, so
right. So there you go. He knows how to take government. He obviously doesn't know how to hold on to government, and it's very difficult. So it'll be interesting to see now some of the things he did talk about, 10% tariff.
Well, as it relates to us in Canada, what impact will those tariffs have on Canadian jobs, Canadian market, Canadian lumber exports, the whole bit?
Well, New Brunswick even.
He doesn't care about Canada. He doesn't care about any other country except, which is probably his job, is to make sure he puts his country first. But I don't know. Well, and then in New Brunswick as well, being along with Canada, but specifically with New Brunswick, where U.S. is our biggest trading partner.
Well, mass exporters.
Exports. So that's a huge issue with tariffs, and for not only the whole country, but specifically with New Brunswick. 92% of our exports go to the United States. So $16 billion, as tweeted on by Adam Harris on Twitter. So
wow.
Huge, and you think like the guy was convicted and he was impeached and he was this and he said this and he did that and he still gets elected. So the people it must be the alternative was even worse
to them,
to the voters.
I know.
I mean, it's what it is. I guess it is what it is.
What it is.
And we see that it's not uncommon with the unrest that we'll probably see in Canada. The polls are saying that Justin Trudeau will be beat bad in the next election. Now, if it's these polls, maybe they'll be wrong. Maybe they're going to be so far.
I don't know.
There's such a large win that it's going to come back being close. I doubt it. But these leaders that seem to want to stay on. Joe Biden, it came to a head once he had that debate with Trump. It was so bad. It was so bad. And likely they had to push him out. He wouldn't go on his own. So they figured out between Pelosi and Obama and Harris, and they brought them all in. Because the debate typically isn't that early. So they had that, it's part of must be part of the process that they had to try to figure out a way to somehow have him step down, because Jill Biden didn't want that to happen. She probably clung on a lot stronger. Yeah, you can't. Having her around the cabinet table, I don't know. That's quite something. Yeah, I know you're the president, but you have the first lady there. I don't know, but anyway,
I'm laughing out loud because I could say so many stories over the last 2 years that would make you laugh too. But anyway, there's some similarities.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
there's some similarities. Anyhow, we won't get into that, but. She was supporting him, obviously. Jill was supporting him and getting him to the end, but really it was best for him to not run in this election. It just would have been a disaster for him, right?
How many people have to tell the sitting leader that? The people that are around you, that you're trusted this, your colleagues that are elected, the people, and they still say no, that everyone else is wrong except themselves. And the same thing seems to be happening. It happened here in New Brunswick. There's no doubt about it. People told, there were conversations, it's been well publicized. But it's happening in Canada as well with Justin Trudeau. How many people are trying to tell him and have told him, how many members of parliament in his own caucus are trying to tell him, but he can do better, So... But it's an interesting topic, just to pivot a little bit there because you mentioned about Justin Trudeau and stepping down. But again, is it best to stay on there, let it ride, and then is there enough time anyway for proper leadership that's healthy for the party, that's not divisive for the Liberal Party?
Yeah.
What's the best scenario? That's one thing Frank McKenna sort of mused on. He said that if it was him, he'd be leaving, but at the same token, is it healthier or unhealthier to stay or go for the party in the long run?
Right.
Go in, take your lumps,
take their licks anyways,
and then rebuild.
I just don't see a path for any of them that leads the federal Liberals to come back even close to Poilievre. To be honest, I just don't. And most of the pollsters are talking that way, and the political insiders are on any of those, Question Period or any of those shows are saying the same thing. So. Yeah. I think we're ready for change.
Just call the election.
We're ready for change. Yeah. Just get it over with. That's it. And that's incumbency. And that's 10 years of incumbency.
True.
And we saw the same thing when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he was in Fredericton, and we went to an event at a Tim Hortons, and we posted a picture of us with him. And the place lit up. Facebook just blew up on us. People were hating on us because we went there, and it's like, what?
What's going on? Prime Minister.
It's not that bad. I bet you 10 years ago, people are wondering now if Harper was right when he said that Trudeau just wasn't ready.
Well, that's one of their mistakes that they campaigned on. It was the slogan of "he's just not ready." Because I don't think they shouldn't have said he's not ready, because then people would be more like, well, let's give him a chance and he'll grow into it and all this. This not ready wouldn't have been a slogan I would have picked. I would have picked Never. yeah.
He's never going to be ready.
Not ready seems like, oh, well, he's got the makings in the future to be there. So, yeah, but you're right.
But it's the incumbency. People wanted Harper out so bad. All of Atlantic Canada went red, you know, and now we're ready to switch back after 10 years. And, you know, I don't think that a lot of all the Liberal MPs in New Brunswick have necessarily done a bad job. I mean, if you look around the north, those guys have done a good job up around the north, and Wayne Long has been very vocal for St. John.
Yeah, there's people
But
that
they're going home.
there are good people that are not going to be back.
They're going home.
And they'll be replaced by other good people. Yeah.
So when we talk about the tariffs, I was corrected earlier, when we talk about the tariffs, so Trump says his favorite word in the dictionary is tariff. He's going to be making people pay for things that come into the U.S., but if that is the only course of action that happens, which we don't think it will, but that is where Americans pay the extra money on goods that are coming in, so they're going to get hurt over that. But it's the counter tariffs that for goods that we get out of the U.S. into here is where Canadians will pay, and then that just becomes a little tit for tat,
bid-in war.
A war on that, and then where does it go after that? Who knows? I don't think that Donald Trump has any interest in negotiating with Trudeau on anything.
Oh, no. What was his clip there?
Well, he hasn't even talked to him.
Well, no, but there's a clip there. Taylor showed me last night that Trump said that if Trudeau comes to the border, he's going to be arrested. So that's what Trump said. Something like, no offense. He said, no offense. I love my brothers and sisters in Canada, but if Trudeau comes to the border, he'll be arrested.
Oh, that's so funny.
So it's just like, oh, well, we're not going to get anything done with that. I noticed Trudeau did set up a committee. He set it back up. Committee back up, and Dominic LeBlanc's the vice chair of it. Well, that's good. So that's good for...
Well, it is. And NAFTA, or whatever it's called now, the Mexico, America, Canada Free Trade Agreement, that is up for another negotiation. So I don't know how that's going to go, but Trump holds the cards.
Maybe we better be having a negotiation with Mexico.
Maybe, yeah. But Pierre,
deal.
Maybe Pierre can do a better a negotiation with them after government changes. I don't know. I don't know the exact date. So we'll have to wait and see on how that goes. But how do you think Trump's his kind of his wording around deporting illegal immigrants, how is that going to affect our borders here? Are people going to leave there and come to the safe border of Canada because it's a safe space for them, or what?
Well, the Trudeau has reduced the number of immigrants we're allowed to have.
Legal immigrants.
Legal immigrants.
Legal immigrants.
Going to bust them up there, just let them walk across?
How are they going to leave on their own because they don't want to be there? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
That's what I'm wondering. How do you think?
The day after the U.S. election, Google said that the number one search now was Americans Googling Canada about moving to Canada.
Right.
So that was, and then me being in real estate, I've received a couple of emails from Americans. Very interesting. Like right that next day, we're looking at selling this and buying one of my listings. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I'm thinking, because it does happen throughout the year. It's
not that far from the border.
And so I'm thinking, is it coincidence that it's just the day after? So, but you are right. I don't know why more Americans don't with either move or spend their money here because of the dollar. Now they keep doing it enough. Maybe the dollar will go back, but the deporting.
Their dollar's in great shape. They come up here with it.
And New Brunswick was doing well with it happened probably on its own in a way, but people moving here from Ontario out west and other places because they liked the quality of life in New Brunswick. They don't like it after they get here and have no family doctor, but it's a slower pace. They can work from home. And I felt it was too bad that the province didn't kind of jump on that more as a promotional opportunity to attract more people to come to New Brunswick.
But infrastructure just wouldn't.
Well, no. See, and their infrastructure won't handle it. The services won't handle it, and there doesn't seem to be Doesn't seem to be a strategy to address that either.
No.
Like to actually put a plan in place and say, let's bring in new money and new people in.
I'm sure there's reports sitting on shelves somewhere about immigration policy and.
Well, it's adjusting and
population growth.
Yeah, I mean, it's even just with. Not even new Canadians, but Canadians that are moving here with the interesting now. We have a market with some Americans coming. I don't know.
So what does Susan Holt now do with the talk about tariffs and things like that? Does does she get somebody to go down there?
She didn't come out to wasn't available to the media.
Oh.
They asked her to talk about this, and she didn't send her out. She wasn't being made available. That's what happens. You get in, and you start seeing, because the expectation is so high during a campaign. Yeah, you're there no matter what day and night. This available is very noticeable when not available now to speak again. Well, it'd be interesting to see if this federal government committee or whatever is set up as it should be pan-Canadian with provincial representation, because little Susan Holt out of little New Brunswick is not going to change necessarily policy in Washington, D.C.
But Brian Glant had somebody tasked with tackling the softwood lumber issues down there. I forget his name now. He made a boatload of money off us, so I was probably a little critical of it when I was in opposition.
Yeah, but if they band together with BC and Alberta, and we had a bit of a coalition as a pan-Canadian approach, whether we'd ever be able to stick together as a country to do that. But
you're right, because we're such a small player. But
yeah,
I'm sure Mr. Irving is not happy about hearing that, with so much lumber that go down to the U.S. from his businesses and things like that. So
we have to have people at the table willing to talk. Yeah.
Does she call Frank McKenna? Get him on board and get him to work? I'd be one of the people I would call as a former ambassador.
For sure.
That understands it all. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what Dominic LeBlanc and his committee roll out in Ottawa. But it could affect us a lot really negatively, with the economy here in New Brunswick at some point in time. So something to watch for.
Interest rates are going down. That's one good thing. Yes.
Interest rates are going down. That's right.
Interest rates have gone down, and I think it was 50 basis points. The Bank of Canada lowered them. And that was the third reduction. And so there'll be another one coming up, I think, before the end of the year. And, it's it's the Bank of Canada and inflation and trying to balance all that. So that's gone down some. The other thing is, since Trump won, is the stock market the last 2 days. Yeah. It's so people are looking at their investments and are happy with that. So,
is that due to just stability now, or what people think is stability? They know who's in charge, and now they're going to start moving stock.
That, or maybe they just think he's got the right economic policies for the country.
Yeah,
they might have. They must have more confidence in him.
They have confidence in something.
Certainly, the majority of the voters did. It's quite something when he's got the House and the Senate and the popular vote
in full control.
That's quite a mandate. Well, you were talking, Jeff. You mentioned some about the illegal immigration and. Deportation and just the sentiment. There's violence. There's in the streets in Canada and the U.S. Primarily, it seems to be over the Israel and Gaza issue and things like that. But a lot of people are just having enough of the violence as well. And Trump did a great job, whether it's accurate or not, I'm not sure, but he did a good job during the campaign pinning it on illegal immigration and blaming it on that. So it didn't blame it on American people per se, but on immigration, on the illegal aliens. Who will say that they're eating cats and dogs?
I know.
Get elected as president.
And Puerto Rico is an island of garbage. I know. I know.
And the Latino vote seemed to, I think, was very high. I saw a report. He talked, like you said, about the Puerto Ricans and this, and we're doing it all wrong. Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show, I think, that when people want change, they don't care what you say or what you've done in the past. They'll just switch you out. And it is a little concerning, though, I think, as far as understanding where the bar used to be or where it was or is or should be on how politicians are supposed to be held to a certain level of professionalism. And that just does not seem to be the case. Saw it here in New Brunswick a couple different times, but the electorate didn't tolerate it, I guess, so to speak. So I don't know, but man, to say those things down there and you can't, I don't know who eating cats and saying that people are eating cats and dogs and still win.
It was the squirrel. It was breaking. It was going into the house and taking that fellow squirrel there the last week or so before the election. 7 years he had that squirrel, and the American people must have said that's just enough. That's out now.
They executed the squirrel.
Yeah. And raccoon. Well, that's probably enough.
They were checking to see if it had rabies.
Probably.
It was. Yeah, that's what they said.
Well, you got a good point, Joe. I think you were saying, we've got enough
about Trump.
U.S. election and Trump, so let's maybe take a quick little break. on the Carr Brothers Show on episode 126, and we'll be right back right after this. Hi there, welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 126. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, the third of the three Carr brothers. Well, we want to thank you for joining us again. We're on Facebook, on our Facebook page, The Carr Brothers Show. We're on YouTube. We're on your favorite podcaster afterwards. And also CHCO TV. Couldn't do it without CHCO TV. So we're broadcasted on Rogers now, on Shaw, and on Bell. So all providers were available in every home in New Brunswick that has cable. So that's exciting.
Very.
Just to increase our potential for viewers, not only for our show, but for CHCO that provides excellent local programming. That's key. So, okay, well, let's talk about the Susan Holt Liberal Cabinet announcement. What's going on this week? Yeah, last
swearing in on Saturday.
Yeah.
The legislature open to the public. We thought that there would allow it to be a bigger turnout, and that's why. But my sources tell me that the gallery was not full. But there was a fair crowd at the convention center. I saw some photos over there, so I guess it did generate some excitement. For the first time in quite a long time, I saw some First Nations chiefs there from around the province that were there for the ceremony as well, and I haven't seen that for a while. So that was kind of nice to see those guys there doing that. And so she invited all of the previous female MLAs and current female MLAs to the legislature, sat them on the floor. There was probably 18 maybe, I think I saw. Meadow was there. It was a big deal. They made it a big deal, and some expansion of cabinet, I guess, that is from normal. Blaine had a 19-person cabinet this last bit of his term, including him. And I think that's what she has now, is 19 including her. So,
so we can't say more or less.
No.
That's good. What I was impressed with or happy with was the press release that came out the day before. On Friday.
Yeah, no secrets, eh?
No secrets. We were talking last week on the Carr Brothers Show about one of the biggest angsts and problems that I had with selecting a cabinet and being part of a potential cabinet, in or out, not sure. And we talked about the awkwardness of going through the halls of the legislature. And, well, my goodness, they came out with the press release. I ripped the Band-Aid off. Everybody knows. There's no surprise.
Yeah.
You get a chance to adjust a little bit if you didn't make it. You get a chance. You get a chance to show up and be happy, and you have your family. And
the adjust part is important, because they can get it out of those that didn't get selected can get that out of their system instead of finding out 2 minutes before or right at the moment, and you have a microphone poked in your face, or your family's with you or whatever. So,
well,
it was interesting. First time, I think.
First time I ever remember. Well, it's never been fair that way. And this shows off the bat as some respect. I think primarily for the ones that don't get in. It's they're part of our family. We're going to do this in a way so that, as we mentioned, they have a chance to see, did you make it, did you not, process it, and then come the next day for the cabinet swearing in and the MLA swearing in. Did they have the MLA swearing in at the same time?
Yeah. They did it in the morning. MLA's at 11 a.m., 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning, and then cabinet at 2 in the afternoon. So
I was a break. I was a bit... my day went ahead okay. It didn't ruin my day. But the government, the GMB Twitter account only posted about cabinet and Susan Holt being the first female premier, which is fine and great. They didn't mention about the MLAs being sworn in. So that's where, again, Susan Holt tried to include all the MLAs, I think, by announcing the day before. But then the day of, no mention about the regular MLAs being sworn in of all parties.
That's a typical civil servant thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, they'd probably tell you that's the norm, and that's the legislative branch.
That's the chronicle.
Not the government branch, the executive council. We don't do regular MLAs because we're not allowed to list their names.
Right.
That would be the role of the legislature, and all these reasons.
There's all these reasons. And
So it begins. Yeah.
So it begins.
But I have to make a note of that. Wanted to make a note of that because we're going to ask for changes and do changes. That's one thing right there. So, but let's talk about cabinet. What do you guys think about the cabinet? Any surprises? Any big surprises? I guess a little surprise.
Not surprising, Hickey.
Benmar Bork was not in cabinet. I was a little surprised by that, right? Because he's deputy speaker.
I think he's deputy speaker. Yeah, but he was a minister of education in there, or health in the past. Health in the past. So I was a little surprised with that one. Surprised that David Hickey was in right away. I mean, especially in housing only, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him now to do housing in St. John, where he's from, and his ward that he was a councillor for is one of probably the most unhoused areas in the province. So it'll be interesting. But hey, she balanced cabinet around the province pretty good.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
I have to say. She had lots to choose from, I guess.
With David Hickey, I'll say just real quick, because then instead of coming back to it, but David Hickey appears that Susan Holt is actually working for the next 4 years as well, the next election, because that is a major issue, which it is in St. John. Make him that, and it's up to him really to make that work. But that could be a foreshadowing of, put him in there now, and he's got a chance to work in, because it's not a slam dunk in the riding that he wants.
No. Not a slam dunk to get housing done, number one, but it's certainly not a slam dunk to hold the seat, because that seat flips.
We're expecting a heck of a lot of housing because there's a heck of a lot of need, and I suppose if he's up for it and he gets the funding and they get the projects out the door and they can see some the workers and they can see something, but the need is so great that I'm afraid that he might not be able to meet the expectations, but he's going to give it a go anyways, and we'll see. But because there isn't enough that can instantly fix the problems. But
I do know that there's a lot of projects in the queue. There were a lot of associations and companies and nonprofits that were trying to get this moved ahead and done, so they're going to have to, David Hickey is going to have to tackle the red tape and the bureaucracy that is now over at the Housing Corp, and with cabinet support and party support, and say, we're doing this, we're moving ahead, and we're getting this done.
So how do you do that with the corporation? A housing corp, and
if they don't want to do it, dissolve it.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it's a matter of a corporation. It's the leadership that's required at the minister's office to make sure that they navigate that through.
Here's your mandate letter.
But don't forget, they're going to need checks and balances and accountability, and you can't just be rolling out money to different companies that don't have accountability.
But it doesn't need layers and layers and layers and layers. I personally was helping to work on a project for a local community entity, and it was just like pulling hen's teeth. You could not get anything done by the time you went to this hub and this corporation and this funding level, and they would just send you right back in the circle again. Yeah.
So you're saying that the only way to change that is someone like the minister, David Hickey, has to be strong and push.
He's got to be strong, and if that means that they have to make some changes at the Housing Corp, somebody that's going to say, okay, we're doing this and we're making some moves, or maybe they do it on their own and say, okay, let's get serious here, and this is how we can streamline it. Maybe the Housing Corp knows how to streamline and get this stuff moving. But I know from personal experience that the last 3 years has been the biggest headache of my life trying to get little small 20-unit, 10-unit housing projects off the ground and going. So we'll see. I won't say any more, but we'll see. And I think most people hope that this can get accomplished, because like I said, there's so many in the queue ready to go. They've done a lot of the engineering work and all of the background work and the preliminary stuff, and when there are hiccups on I's and T's not dotted and crossed properly, well, then the people in Fredericton need to go out and
sit down with
kid gloves and say, how can we make your project work?
Yeah.
And that was something that we campaigned on in the past.
Well, they used to have consultants. They used to have consultants that would basically help them
They can't even get it. They can't even get across the line. So we'll see. A lot of pressure on David Hickey and the Housing Corp now.
Because don't forget, it's more than just St. John too.
It is.
So that is a big problem there, but it's all over the province.
It's all over.
So who else? What else for announcements? Well, we got, let's stick with the St. John area, I guess. We got the Dr. Dornan named as health minister. No surprise.
No. We'll see. That'll be interesting to see if he can work through that without he's obviously has a lot of colleagues and professionals that are in the Department of Health, but he knows the system. He obviously should know where the stop gaps are and where the hurdles are and where all that business is happening.
I think there's some high expectations to get some changes happening quickly. I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to no longer say, well, the previous government took this much time and didn't. There's a big expectation that healthcare was the number one issue. That's what the Liberals campaigned on. Susan Holt campaigned on it. She's already moving on healthcare initiatives today and this week. So I think we need to see less hallway healthcare, she said. And there's high expectations to see some things move, I think, fairly quickly. So,
and I think it's this file, the health file, where people will give the less grace. It's not going to be very long. It's going to be 6 months or less, and people are going to be saying, like, you said. You said. And so we'll see how long that lasts on the health file. Like Dr. Dorgan, good guy. He was a good CEO over there. We appointed him as cabinet, as interim CEO, and then we hired his full-time CEO, and then we fired him. And that was it.
Then we fired him as
I don't think I was around for the firing part.
We're part of it.
Yeah. I was on that list.
You were Wintdorf and on the side.
But anyhow, we'll see. He's got a big job to do, and can a healthcare professional manage the health department? That's what I'll be interested in.
It's been done before. We had Dr. Furlong, Dennis Furlong, and Russ King. Love them or liked them, but they seem to have credibility in the system. And they were reasonable and reasoned people, but we'll see. It'll be interesting. Okay, well, what else here?
John Heron in St. John goes into, as a member in Hampton, natural resources. Energy is taken away from that and put over with finance, which is very interesting, I thought, that they took energy and put it over with finance and not left it with natural resources. So, and finance is Renee Legacy, the deputy premier as well. So it would be interesting to see. I don't know. I don't know why the reasoning on energy. Can only speculate. Baldoon is up close to his riding. Maybe that's part of it. There's a old Smurfit mine mill site that has to be cleaned up there. I can't imagine that's part of it. So I don't know. Although Renee is very smart at this files, he understands the files, but and I don't know. There's going to be a lot of
no connection with like gas tax and rebates and revenue.
Maybe
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, that's good.
But if Carr is elected in the year from now, there will be no carbon tax. That's for sure. But there will be. She did promise dealing with the consumer industry tax or whatever it was on fuel.
Industry.
Okay.
Well,
maybe refinery tax, whatever you call it.
So maybe as we get we'll have some guests on. We'll get some people on here to tell us what they think.
That's right.
Let's. Well, here in Fredericton, you were right, both of you maybe, but I know Jeff, you mentioned that it was almost a shoe-in that all three MLAs. So we had the Premier, of course, Susan Holt and Silverwood riding, and then Cindy Miles here in Maryland and Hanwell riding, and Luke Randall on the north side. All two. Cindy and Luke got into cabinet. That was no surprise for me.
Shocker.
And they're both very fitting with their backgrounds. Luke Randall running his own business for a number of years, very successful in downtown Fredericton. So he's responsible for economic development and opportunities in New Brunswick and whatnot. And Cindy Miles has, in several previous years, has been focused on mental health, youth addiction, youth mental health,
youth at risk,
integrated services, connecting the dots, and social services and that. So I really think she's quite passionate about that, and it will be a good fit in social development. So
coming from nonprofit as well.
That exactly.
That's a big deal.
Big respect of nonprofit organizations.
And social development is, if you have somebody going there as a minister that comes from the nonprofit sector. How are they going to take to her in there? And it changes their mindset on how they work with nonprofits, which is a great...
You're right. Ideally, we'll now have leadership that will embrace nonprofits and give them a little support, so they'll be partners around the table.
I shouldn't give the I guess the insinuation that the people at the department don't want to work with nonprofits. I think most of them lean on the nonprofits, but like you say, the leadership. When you have leadership that respect the nonprofit and
Leverage their knowledge.
Leverage their knowledge because they're the experts. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I guess as former MLA for part of that riding and you as well, Jack, I think I would have to give some friendly advice right away and just tell her, Cindy and Luke both, not to forget about your ridings. First cabinet meeting was Monday, normally a constituency day, so don't forget about who got you where you're at. They'll get a little bit of flexibility from the constituency for the first few weeks or a month, but they're going to be expecting a lot of attention, which they should have and they've always had. So that would be my advice. Yeah, forget the peeps.
Yeah, and that's like all of those new ministers that have never been an MLA, especially you've seen that in previous governments when people have not had, politicians have not had the benefit of being a regular MLA first. They may not quite fully understand and appreciate the role in their riding. Well, let's talk as well about just the fact a friend of ours, Aaron Kennedy. It was so nice because Joe, your homeroom teacher was his dad, Blake Kennedy, and he was my teacher, but he wasn't my homeroom teacher. But back in Wassers Road Junior High, Ridgeview Middle School is what it's called now. So grade 8, 9, we had Aaron's dad as our teacher, and it was nice to see some of the photos afterwards. There was Aaron with his family. With a group photo down there on the floor of the legislature. And he had tried back in 2018, did not get enough votes to beat Premier Higgs at that time, but then came back this past election and did.
He did. He worked hard.
Regardless of, nothing to say. I think it's behind us now with it being Blaine Higgs, but the fact that it was Aaron winning was nice to see.
Another OHS alumni in the legislature.
Moncton High School
alumni.
And now local government. So he'll be local government minister.
Big job ahead there on the fiscal reform for local government.
That was a portfolio you had.
I had local government,
stint.
I did for 2 years. Excellent department. The stakeholders, the municipalities, all the mayors, councillors, the CAOs you work with are amazing. The staff at local government are good. They know their job. They know their work. A little bit of a bumpy ride over the last 4 years, though, for our former government trying to do this forced amalgamation, and now we're seeing fallout in different communities where it's not working out for them. Not everybody's meant to be governed that way.
No, and also I noticed one of our first local entities, whatever we call them now, was a $12 million municipal building.
Oh, yes, the former Russia-Gornick.
$8 million.
Right, $8 million building for the building.
And with some different other parts of the province, they love their municipal buildings.
They do.
They love to be able to have every little community with a municipal building. But in our part of the province right here, one of my biggest fears or one of my biggest concerns with these new elected entities is that you would all want to go and build a new municipal building.
Right.
And it'll be
Taj Mahal.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds because I think it's still open for vote, isn't it? It's up for a vote on getting these grants.
Well, there was a town meeting.
Basically, they're borrowing money. Maybe
they have to go to the Capital Borrowing Board and get approval on it.
So approval is just the step, apparently the step that's get that out of the way and then go forward to see
what they need, what the needs are. The communication just did not work out there.
No, they have.
And you know what? I know the mayor.
It happens in the most established. The longest established towns and cities. And St. John is an example, the oldest incorporated, still can't get communication. Still hard to write on their projects. Well, but you get a new entity that,
and I know, and you guys do too, mayor and councilors, all there, good people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's their first time ever on a council, and just got things out of order a little bit. I mean, I think people should just kind of give them, I wouldn't say benefit of the doubt, but just a little flexibility on how they got things out of order. A lot of people got really upset. And I can see, why do we need an $8 million bill? And I can see why they're upset. But I think the meeting the other night, from what I'm watching on Facebook, seemed to go pretty good. Corey Allen talking to Larry DeLong, one of the councillors on Facebook, thanking him for coming. So I think there's probably a path forward. But just how many of these little trip-ups do people... will they, tolerate? Yeah. So it's tough.
So people joining us, if you're not aware, we're talking about the Sunbury York South
municipality,
rural community, so municipality going through a few
forced to become a legal entity. They didn't really need to be.
Yeah, and the costs. People were nervous that costs would go up to taxes, and I don't mind my taxes going up for services I'm getting, and if we're going to. If we're not, I always said, if we're not paying what we should be paying out in local service districts or rural areas, then just tell me what I'm supposed to pay, and we'll pay it.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of the bigger cities saying that, and government, that we're not paying what we should. Well, then tell me what I need to pay. Show me what I need to pay.
Tell me what my services are.
But I want to make sure I'm getting the services. That's fair enough.
Right.
Anyway, we got sidetracked off local government.
Local government. Well, and oddly enough, Aaron's family, I think, live in
that riding,
in the area, in the riding, and so
me too. I do too.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see him representing Quispam-Cis as a, I don't know, always known as an affluent kind of municipality that seems to have a decent tax base and everything. They're an outlier community of St. John, and St. John's a huge issue with huge commitments that Susan Holt made.
That's right.
So that'll be an interesting, maybe Aaron will be well positioned to be able to
bridge some of that
work with his own community of Quispam-Cis and work with the city of St. John and maybe bridge that gap. We'll see.
Maybe so.
He certainly has the right personality for it. Oh my gosh, yeah. Very, very, very good. Very likable. The voice of the St. John Sea Dog, or the Flames. Flames.
Well, he worked for Frederick, one of the Frederick radio stations too at one time.
He did, CHCI. And
he shared the photo on Facebook yesterday.
Oh, I think it was
Andrew.
Must have been no, Bruce Hallahan.
Bill Hunt. Bruce Hallahan shared it. Yes.
Shot from the past. I think you were
interviewing Don Cherry.
Aaron Kennedy, Bill Hunt, and Bruce were in the picture interviewing Don Cherry.
Yeah,
young Aaron Kennedy, and so he went and really. And when I texted Aaron after the election, and congratulated him, but I also thanked him and said, because we went to the same broadcasting college in Thunder Bay.
Okay.
Same radio and TV broadcasting program, and I got accepted there, and I got accepted a couple other places. So I called Aaron way back then, 30 years ago. I don't even know if I really knew him that well, but I knew that he went to that school, Confederation College, and he gave me some great advice. He was working at the radio station, and maybe they were up to post by then, I think, but gave me some great advice, and I have never forgotten that. That was very, very, you get very giving. You get a kid, it's still in high school, not sure what direction I was going to go or not, but that he gave me some great time on the phone to be able to help advise me, and then since then he's helped me with different things with broadcasting back in the day.
So maybe we ought to get him on. As a local OHS guy, and just give him a little time to get his feet wet.
Get a little bit. Give him a little time.
Maybe we get his first fall session in first and see how he likes that.
At least first question first. At least first.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I think he'll be able to handle himself pretty good. Also, what he has for advantage, or at least experience, is Mary Scryer's executive assistant. Yeah. And she was in cabinet. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, so I was elected at that time, and always appreciated his approach to working with opposition MLAs, while trying to just do what you can to solve the issue. So he will have, as minister, that experience of riding constituency issues that executive assistant often had to deal with.
I did not know he was in EA. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. It's important.
Yeah.
If you have that under your belt, it was a big help for me. I know that.
Yeah.
I'll say probably a lot of his contacts have changed since he was in EA, though, compared to now, because that was 14 years ago.
Something like that.
26 to 10, he was her EA probably.
Yeah, that's right. So who else? What else would you like to see here?
There's
5 minutes or so.
New MLA in Moncton, Alexandre. I want to say Cedric Doucette.
Yeah, didn't
get in. I was a little surprised about that.
Yeah,
but not everybody can be in. And I was a little surprised. He was,
but like I said too, we don't know if everyone wanted. No one's going to necessarily admit that they didn't want.
And I believe he's a lawyer.
He is,
so
and he has a young
opportunity to do some work outside of the legislature. Albeit doing that now is difficult.
Pretty young baby at home and stuff too. So they've got
for Moncton, it's a little
travel
so
and that. You never know, but no, I noticed that too.
But it's going to be a long 4 years. Switches can happen. Cabinet can be shuffled, as we've seen in the past. So who knows? I was surprised by that, but it is what it is. Not overly surprised that Francine or one of the former ministers' MLAs will now be the speaker, or they're asking the legislature to support her as speaker. The premier doesn't appoint speaker.
No, but they highly recommend. The premier always does that.
Always.
I saw some critics on Twitter
saying
this is unconstitutional, whatever.
Yeah.
But they always kind of will suggest to their caucus.
It's a signal.
Yeah. But
so
anyways.
It'll be interesting to see her as the speaker.
Pretty easy job, really.
I don't think it's that difficult. It's a good job for her. And then her deputies would be, as you said, Benoit Bourque and
Guy Arsenault.
Guy, yeah. So
I'm surprised Guy didn't make it. Didn't
yeah,
make cabinet.
me too. He's certainly capable, has experience, but you can't all be in cabinet. And that's a good role for Guy. Guy will make that entertaining.
Yeah.
He seems like a crotchety old guy.
But you know, again,
when you see him on TV, but when you get him away from the ledge, and very personable, great sense of humor.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He'll do good at that. And then Jacques Leblanc is, I think, the whip.
Oh yes.
An old friend of mine when he was a mayor of Shediac before he was first elected. And when I went to the Department of Environment, that guy kept banging on my door, wanting in my boardroom to talk about Shediac specific files, and took me down to Shediac and showed me around to some where the environmental issues were, and we were able to clean a few up, and just
good relation.
just because he approached it the right way.
Right.
He wasn't,
Bad.
like a former critic myself in the legislature, being
the words out of my
being,
mouth.
being hard to,
Yeah.
just being so tough. But he didn't do that, and so he's the whip, and he'll do a fine job at the whip. The whip is not a overly strenuous job anymore because it just is what it is. You don't have things to trade, and
They have a bigger majority.
and they have a great majority, 31. So good for him. But we'll see how that all goes.
Well,
Any surprises for you guys? I've done all the talking here.
No, it's been great because you've been whip before, you've been local government minister before, so it's good.
Regular
to get,
backbencher before,
yeah,
opposition
good
critic.
to get your
so
perspective on that.
my resume is long on that business.
No, that's great. So good to talk about that. We talked about the U.S. election, and now we've run out of time, guys.
We're almost out of
It
time.
seems like we just started. I know. So it's just been a good. What election are we going to talk about next week?
Well, it'll be halfway through the Nova Scotia election by
Right.
this time next week. I think their election day is on the 26th, and polling right now is showing that Tim Houston is going to gain seats.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but it's still 2 weeks out.
Well, when he makes decisions over the last few years, I never got the impression that he was being mean about it.
No, it's very good that way.
He was trying to be reasonable. I'm sure there's people that aren't happy, but he seemed to be able to just. I was thinking about that this morning, going into work and stuff, and he just seemed like, okay, well, he just seems like he can steady it along. That's not an easy thing to do. No, in the last few years, it just seems to, in their communications department, when there were announcements throughout the last 3 years, it's rolling those out, getting them out there, getting the announcements out there, talking about focused on health. He was focused on what he got elected about.
He was.
Not all then getting all into a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
but,
no, he's focused on that and housing. Both of them, they've really been after, and they're doing a lot of infrastructure stuff too. Because I know their Minister Kim Maston, but they're not really focused on pushing a big message on that stuff. It doesn't seem, but they're really getting after the healthcare thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap her up. Okay. Episode 126. It's been a great discussion so far. It is. It's just getting better and better. And so we'll leave it at that. And we want to thank our viewers. Oh, yeah, Joe. Our new tech. Yes, go ahead, Joe. No, go ahead. You. We definitely want to actually very much appreciate our new tech support in studio here with us, Terry Gallant. From the New Road and Gary, and we just really want to say thank you very much to French Lake for his support, for stepping up, and you're going to see even more progress with our technology. That's right. Our live broadcast.
No pressure.
With our Zoom guests and other things we're looking forward to. So, well, great compliment having Terry with us, with the rest of the team down at CHCO in St. Andrews, which makes it very possible we wouldn't have our show. And so, thank you, Terry, for Flo, Vicky, and the whole gang. Mod.
So I guess Monday is Remembrance Day.
Yes.
So we'll end it on that note.
Yes, we will.
Lest we forget.
We have a lot to be thankful for, and the reason why we have these elections we can hammer over about. Yes, that's right. Gives us our freedom because of our soldiers and armies and navies and air force that have
the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, like they say, when you see a vet, thank them for their service, or a family member of a vet that's no longer with us, and an existing active members of our military today that are still serving. Good. Well, let's leave it at that, and thank everyone for watching. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.